Hello and welcome back to Media and More with the Mediocre Modeler. If you're a fan of the sci-fi, then now is your time. There is so much sci-fi out there. If it's Star Wars, it's Star Trek, there's streaming, every platform has sci-fi for you. But we're talking about older sci-fi, not too old. We're talking about audiobooks. We're talking about Firefly. Now, for context, I'll have to say when I first became aware of Firefly, I saw a spaceship and I knew it was coming on. But I think I had seen I saw parts of the intro, and I saw these people walking around with Western gear, talking like they were from the Old West, but it was supposed to be out of space. And then the opening theme. I mean, take my law. No, not my. Take my love. Take my land. Take me where I cannot stand. I mean, okay. Like, that's not sci-fi. My brain is just like, nope, done. I'm done. Okay. So I walked away from it. And then a couple of years later, my buddy Scott says, hey, let's go see this movie. It's a sci-fi movie, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay. And you sit down, and it's Serenity. So my first actual exposure to Firefly and any of the characters was the movie Serenity. And to their credit, they did a really good job, because when I got done watching the movie, all I wanted to do is go figure out, well, you know, what is this? And I found the box set. Found the box set on DVD and watched it. Now, it's only 14 episodes. You could easily say that Firefly got short shrift. And I don't know all the reasonings behind why it got canceled, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter. I do know that that's one that came back. The fans helped to bring that one back. So, yay us. But when it was over, usually something like that, when it's over and done, it's over and done. Well, they came out with some audiobooks. And that's the media we're talking about today. There came 8 more books. And I spend a lot of time in the car, so I'm a little bit more partial to audiobooks. Some people like to listen to them at a fast pace to get the story in, or they don't like the voice actors or whatever. I'm stuck in the car, so I really have to, if I want the story, I gotta take whatever comes. And the thing you have to, especially if you really know the characters, you know in your head, especially if you're going from like a live action to an audiobook, you know what the characters sound like. You know how they act and how they would react. And that was my biggest concern with Firefly, because it's a stellar cast.
My love, take my land, take me where I cannot stand. I don't care, I'm still free. You can't take the sky from me. Take me out to the black, tell them I ain't coming back. Burn the land and boil the sea. You can't take the sky from me. There's no place I can be since I found serenity. But you can't take the sky from me.
Firefly is unique in the way it's set up. It has a Western feel, but they speak Mandarin a lot, or at least they use some phrasings here and there. So it's just a weird conglomeration. And so for someone to be able to go in and write that in an audiobook is really, really tough. And of the 7 books, okay, all 7 books, I think they pretty much nailed it, but not all 7 books landed. The first book is called Big Damn Hero. So, with a name like Big Damn Hero, you know, it's going to be hit or miss. And the thing about it is they also give you the timeline. When the story starts, it'll say this book takes place between this point and this point. So you all, if you watch the series, you kind of know where you are. The first book is going to be Mal's book, because you get some background story on him that kind of tells you how he ended up joining, you know, the things that led up to why he joined, and kind of who the guy is today. He also is a character that was very consistent through all the stories, and there you could just very easily go from the TV show to the audiobook to the movie without missing a beat with Mal. So that kind of gives you a story for where it kind of gets you into the universe. In this first story, as usual, they need money, they need a job, and so they go to they take a job from Badger, the character played by Mark Shepard, which he plays a pretty good bad guy, but they need to transport this really sensitive cargo somewhere, and they get another job that seems too good to be true. Mal, Zoe, and Jane go as backup for this other job, and Mal ends up getting kidnapped. And so the rest of the story is we got to figure out what to do with this delivery and get it done, but we also have to find Mal. And it's a really good tie-in story. It gets you back into the universe. You really feel like it's a very well done story. The next story is actually Jane's story, and it's called The Magnificent Nine. And I think of all the stories, I'll have to double check, this all takes place, pretty much every time they talk about Jane, they talk about that ugly hat. The hat that Mama Cobb made him. And so in this story, you get Jane's background, a little bit of what Jane was like in his youth, and how he got to where he was on the crew of the Firefly. So a past friend of his is in need of help. So they go to help. In the process, adventure ensues. It's a really, really good story. And of all the characters, if there's a character on there that I'm not going to care about that much about, is probably going to be Jane. And this was a really good... I could see this as an episode. They could have filmed this easily as an episode. Easier than the Big Damn Hero. So I would really encourage you to check this one out. The third book in the series is called The Ghost Machine. And I think it's supposed to be River's story. But it splinters off into a bunch of... It's kind of more like a what-if story. And that's what I found really interesting about it. It kind of splits them up into these different scenarios as if they were never a crew. And Well, that's not true. It separates them, and I can't remember how, but they're all, each one of the characters are doing their own separate things away from the group, and they can't figure out why, or what's going on. So I didn't think I was going to like this story, but it snuck up on me. It surprised me, and then there's a pretty good reveal in there that's integral to the story of Serenity. So again, didn't think I was going to like it, but I ended up liking it. The fourth book in the series is called Generations, and if I had to be honest, I liked this book the least. It does help fill in that knowledge of where they were and where they are. So, in Firefly, the Earth that was, is this description. Terra was the original home of all the humans. A series of events led to the mass exodus of Earth's population. The Earth fleet left Earth founding a new civilization in a new star system. Many of the facts about Earth that was have been lost to the pages of history. The name of the story is Generations. You put two and two together. But there again, just as the other story kind of fed into Serenity, some of the backgrounds of Serenity, this story kind of feeds into the background of River specifically. So for the knowledge, this one, I think, if I remember it features a lot of Wash, and I think another character that they were on point in every story. Wash was spot on in every story. And I think he features a few, because there's a lot of flying involved here. So, in bits and pieces, I'm okay. But for the most part, I think it's the weakest of all the stories. What are you going to do? They can't all be number one. 10 out of 10. This is not a 10 out of 10. Now, in this one, Anara has left the ship and they're off doing something, and they find out that Anara is very ill and about on the verge of death. And so they find out that there is like one doctor in the universe, across the verse. No power in the verse can defeat me. Anyway, there's one doctor that possibly has the answers that the government knew about his research and squirreled him away. And he's on like a prison planet, and they have to go and get him. So this is more a Mal and Anara story, where that's like the core of it, but since they all really care for each other, and Mal and Anara and the whole, it shows the links that they're all willing to go through together. And there's some, there's some moments where you're not sure if they're going to continue going. So, again, wasn't sure if I was going to like this story, but I knew she was going to survive because this is in between the end of the series and Serenity. But it gives you some other answers. So, there you go. Another good story. Book 6 of the series is called Carnival. Now, in this story, the crew of the Serenity goes to do a security job on a planet, and obviously it goes awry. But in the process, you end up with Zoe and Shepherd Book being kidnapped. And I'll tell you, if you could do a spin-off show of any of the characters, if Shep Book, if you know the story, you know what happens. I think the show could work really well between Zoe and Shepherd Book. Their chemistry together and some of the things, the spoken and unspoken things, are a great match. Sorry for the interruption. I just wanted to step in and clarify myself. When I say that Book and Zoe would make a good team, I'm not talking about relationship. I'm talking more like good cop, bad cop. Or maybe bad cop. Or maybe you always have to figure out which one's trying to be the good cop. But yeah, just want to make sure there's no shipping going on here. So anyway, back to me. The reason I like this story is it kind of happens over a weekend. And the original heist starts like on the Friday, and Carnival is supposed to be over that weekend, and the doc gets to help out at the hospital, make big bucks to help get them out of a pinch. But you've got the kidnapping thing going on. You've got the storyline with this innocent young girl going on, and they all kind of culminate together. But it is also Carnival, and so we do get to dress up a little bit fancy, and that's fun too. So this is definitely one of my my favorite stories of the series. Other than the previous one, Generations, being the absolute at the bottom. I don't think I'm going to rank the rest of them, but if I had to, this would definitely be closer to the top. I really enjoyed this story. The closing story of the series, number 7, the title is just as interesting as the first. Story 1, Big Damn Hero. Story 7, What Makes Us Mighty. And it features the crew doing a just simple, high-paying delivery to a planet, a very controlled planet. They get down, everything seems nice and cozy. They make their delivery, and they're offered more jobs for this person at this rate. And if they continue to do this, this could solve all of their problems. But sometimes things are too good to be true, and there's some underlying secret. There's something that just isn't right. The only person that can actually really see it, though, is Zoe. So this is definitely, and you also get a little bit more of Shepherd Book because there is a faction of his religion on the planet, so he goes out to see the people in this mission or whatever. Definitely a good story as well. So I really do wish, I hope there would be more stories. I would almost say you could make, with the exception of Generations, this would have been a pretty good, well, it couldn't have been a second season because it happened beforehand. With the exception of Generations, every one of these stories would have been a very good episode. Although, with as much as you got in the audiobook, there's no way they could have gotten it done in an hour. But the hours that it's going to take for you to listen to these stories is well worth your time. As much as I really enjoyed this audiobook series, it's not perfect. There are, like I said, I had the one story I really didn't care for that much. My one criticism would be in their use of some of their Mandarin. I'm no expert on Mandarin by far, but the way I remember hearing it on the TV show, they were using it as opposed to using English swear words, or just, you know, short phrases like they would say, like, oh, for instance, we're gonna go over there and do XYZ. Dongma, as in understand. Simon often referred to River as Mei, which means like little sister, or Mal and Anara referred to Kaylee as Mei, so a little sister-like relationship, something like that. So in my head, I'm thinking the phrases are going to be short. The longer phrases would be like ta de ma or ho de ma, which is like his mother or my mother. In my head, I translated that to mother of God or my mother, like not knowing exactly what they meant. But in the book, sometimes they would go on these long rants of Mandarin, and I didn't like that. Until when I was doing the research for this, I ran into this one webpage, and it's called Chinese with Jessie. And it's this young lady, and this is from 2021, and there's this Chinese lady, and what she does is she translates things into English, like from TV shows or whatever. I don't think that's how she originally started, but once she started, people started sending this stuff in. And she even goes over this in the beginning of her video, talking about how Firefly kept coming up. She had never seen the show, she didn't know what it was about, and so she started watching some of these clips and translating some of them. And in watching that, some of the clips, some of the Mandarin phrases were longer. So I had just kind of forgotten. But even at that, it still felt a little bit off in the way they were doing. The phrases still seemed a lot longer than what they should be for where we were trying to go. Because at least in video, you had facial expressions or whatever to play off the Mandarin, whereas in the audiobook, they're just, you know, you're just speaking the foreign language, and you're just you didn't get lost. It just didn't translate well. So anyway, but other than that, I really did enjoy the audiobook series, and I think you would too. If you're watching this show, you're probably going to enjoy it if you haven't seen it already. Finally, I would say this has really gotten me to reappreciate how well I like the show. And it's only 14 episodes, and it seems like maybe I could do the same with the episodes that I did with the audiobooks. It wouldn't take too long, and maybe break it up into 3 segments and go that route. Might have to think about that for a future medium, or maybe hook up with someone who's never seen the show and figure out a way to watch it together or discuss it or whatever. I think that'd be kind of fun. Once again, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next Media and More with the Mediocre Modeler.
pew 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 pew.